Hello there and welcome. My name is Jefta Kobidonko. In our last episode, we looked at all the games that were released in January of 2022. Today, we are having a discussion about Africa's inclusion in games that have been released over the period of time and over the course of time that we have known this phenomenon as esports. Stick and stay, and I'll be sure to bring you all the details that you need to know. This is Respawn on EAN. Gaming, or esports, is one of the largest industries in the world, with millions of people participating in various online and offline games. Asia, Europe, and North America are the dominant players, both in terms of producing games and in game settings. The relationship between race and video games has received substantial academic journalistic attention. Now, game theory based on Johann Huizinga's Homo Ludens argues that playing video games provides a way to learn about the world. Games offer opportunities for players to explore, practice, and reinforce cultural and social identities. Now, video games predominantly created and played by one racial group can unintentionally perpetuate racial stereotypes and limit players' choices to preconceived notions of racial bias. The global video game industry is valued at $140 billion, and Africa is primed to take a piece of the action. Now, between 2014 and 2018, the number of African gamers rose from 23 million to a staggering 500 million, opening up a lucrative opportunity for the African gaming industry to become a major player. Now, according to a 2019 BBC article, every year, the African gaming industry grows by more than 8%, with new gaming companies opening up frequently. Now, even with this statistic, video games in and about Africa are often overlooked. Video games obviously can be used in Africa to change the way Africans view themselves and their continent, and subsequently the way the world also views Africa. Now, the continent is often seen as a dangerous place filled with hunger and war. By creating games set in Africa, led by positive African characters, developers can change perceptions and help Africans see themselves through a more confident, leadership-oriented lens. Now, studies investigating the representation of Africans and other ethnicities are very scarce in video game literature. In a 2014 research paper that examined Africa's representation in 10 of the most popular games of 2014 in the United States, based on industry market research reports, now it was found that Africans are underrepresented in these video games. The study also revealed that African characters in those games did not play leading roles in the storyline. Now, let's narrow the conversation down to sports, specifically football, and we are piggybacking off the AFCON that is ongoing currently and will end in a week's time. Now, one area where there is a distinct and surprising lack of African representation is in the popular FIFA franchise. Now, despite boasting of some of the greatest players on the planet, arguably so, Africa remains the only continent without a licensed league. You have North America, South America, Oceania, Asia, and obviously all the major European leagues featuring in the game. Now, outside of a handful of international teams, players of the game or users of the game or patrons of the game can only use two teams from the African continent, specifically Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs of South Africa. Now, we can delve into the conversation of whether or not they are the best on the continent, but that would just mean that we are losing the crux of our conversation. Now, this is an issue because FIFA generates exposure to millions of fans. Most players of the game will have heard of both of the South African sides purely because they feature in the game. Now, there are no African national teams in FIFA 22, which is the latest release of the game. And so if users or players wanted to replicate the ongoing AFCON competition, there is no way they can do that. I'll take a breather here to acknowledge some of the people who are making it possible for us to bring you Respawn on EAN. Starting off is Digital Store Ghana. Make sure you visit their website if you want to make any purchases with regards to your PlayStation account. We have Stats GH, Team Falcon, Tema Esports Club, and Jigs Game City, who are tournament organizers. Very recently, we also signed a partnership deal with ROG, which is an esports organization in Cameroon, and so be sure to see some of our content in French very soon. Now, continuing the conversation, you flip the coin onto the opposite side, and a game made by Konami, Pro Evolution Soccer, which is now called eFootball, has had a bit of representation for Africa. Now, only the following countries are represented: Morocco, Senegal, Algeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Cameroon, Ghana, Mali, Egypt, Tunisia, Guinea, Burkina Faso, South Africa, and Zambia. Now, in my research, I came across a comment by an unsatisfied user which reads as follows: I am deeply disappointed in EA Sports' continued and, in my opinion, deliberate exclusion of several African teams from the FIFA titles, especially Nigeria. It really pains me to see teams like India, no offense to them, who have not made any significant appearance in international football, not even within their Asian Cup zone. This disturbing trend by EA Sports started as far back as FIFA 2001, where Nigeria was excluded, but I was shocked to see Palestine in the lineup. That just makes no sense. Nigeria was added in the 2014 World Cup edition, but mysteriously excluded yet again from FIFA 15. That was one of the facts that has convinced me EA's lack of consideration for African nations is deliberate. Another issue is why EA has not had the sense to include an African Cup in the tournaments list. It doesn't have to be called the CAF Nations Cup, as I presume EA doesn't have the license for CAF trademarks. But they could just call it the African Cup or something else. Just make a tournament for African teams, please. This is making a lot of fans switch back to PES and winning 11 titles. Now, in a reply to the disgruntled user's post, another user replied saying that Africa's FA has not given EA the rights to allow the teams to be used in the FIFA game. For example, Ghana have sold their rights to Konami, and so EA can't use their teams. The World Cup was different, as FIFA held the rights to the World Cup, and therefore any teams partaking in the main tournament. Now, EA has the FIFA World Cup rights, and so by default could use them in a World Cup game. This does not cover games that are not World Cup licensed. The question now is, in our attempt to push for global inclusion for Africa in games, who should be held responsible for the current drawback? Licensing authorities or game developers? In either case, what's the way forward, and how do we bridge the gap in terms of African representation in this day and age of active conversation about social orientation, specifically race? Make sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section. You can start this discussion, and hopefully in subsequent episodes we can get resource people to shed more light on this topic. My name is Jefta Kopidonko, and this has been Respawn on EAN. A very big thank you to my camera guy, Xavier Donko. See you next time in the next episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends as well.